when evening wraps a loving arm around the tired shoulders of a summer's day. Comforted, the sun slowly sinks into the bosom of the sea. An imposing shadow looms up the horizon, daring to block the orange ball of fire. A figure at once mystic and romantic, proud and majestic. In the Bay of Bengal, this is Sandhead, about 235 kilometers away from Calcutta. Yet another ship has laid anchor here for the night. Ripples in the sea rise in obeisance to the mystic moon, which pulls at them with invisible cords. The vessel must now ride the huge waves and speed along the sparkling sea to its destination, Calcutta Port. Yes, every ship coming to the Calcutta port must wait for the tide. For Calcutta is not a seaside city. It is on the banks of the Hooghly, a river that is not deep enough to ferry ships on its bosom, especially the mighty vessels of today. That is why ships travel to and from Calcutta on the strength of the increased volume of water during high tide. But it's not as simple as it sounds. For keeping the Hooghly navigable, the Calcutta Port Trust has to work tirelessly. Before we elaborate, a look at the history of the port. It was over 300 years ago, on the 24th of August, 1690, when British Captain Job Charnock's vessel reached Calcutta from Madras. It was a red-letter day in the history of both Calcutta city and the port, and the beginning of a lifelong relationship between the two. Much water has flowed down the Hooghly since then. From being a cluster of villages, Calcutta is now a major metropolis. Gigantic ships have now replaced the old vessels with sails. The needs of industrialization have changed the maritime scenario altogether, further strengthening the bonds between the port and the city.
Calcutta Port has a very rich and long history. We are 128 years old as of today. Calcutta started its origin from the landing of the British trader Job Charnock. Taking advantage of the favorable weather, river situation and also trade and commerce, the port actively gradually developed. It continued to flourish and ultimately drew the attention of the British government, who codified in 1870 a set of rules and established the port commissioners. Since then, Calcutta Port has all along been in the domain of the government administration. We first started with the Calcutta jetties, then we followed the Kidirpur dock, which was succeeded by Netaji Subhash dock. There are as many as 35 or so jetties in the Calcutta dock system today, and we are providing various services to the port users. Slowly, we moved down to Bajbaj, where we constructed as many as 8 jetties, mainly to cater to the liquid bulk cargoes. When the river started giving problems by losing its draft, the port management planned and developed a subsidiary dock system at Haldia, mainly to cater to deep drafted and large ocean-going vessels. Haldia, which started in 1977, has shown great promise and has established its position in the map of the country as one of the most modern and dynamic ports. At Haldia, we are receiving largest type tankers like Suezmax tankers and Panamax, who are coming regularly and discharging their cargo there.
And the port has made its impact felt not only on Calcutta, but on the entire eastern belt. Its agriculture, its trade, indeed, its very life and time.
Since its inception, Calcutta port has been the mainstay for the industrial and commercial growth of eastern India. Calcutta's hinterland comprises not only Bengal, but also covers the entire northeast India, including the landlocked states of Nepal and Bhutan. It also covers part of eastern UP, and as of today, we are even linked to the trade centers in Punjab and Haryana. Our port infrastructure has been all along tuned to the growth of the area. The revival at Haldia, as mainly pioneered by Government of West Bengal, has been a big incentive to us, and our investment patterns at Haldia and nearby areas has accordingly been planned. We hope to keep ourselves in readiness, both in terms of number of jetties, number of marine crafts, number of equipments, so that we may attract more and more cargo in our port area in competition with other ports in the eastern seaboard.
This journey from traditional to modern has not been easy. The Hooghly has changed many times over in the course of time. Till 1937-38, vessels needing up to 26 feet of draft had about 291 navigable days a year. But there came a time in about 1960-61 when the river fell short of water and such ships could not enter Calcutta even once in a year, for more reasons than one. Firstly, most of the water of the Ganges used to reach Bangladesh via the Padma River. As a result, the spill channel of the Ganges, the Bhagirathi, which reaches water to the Hooghly, used to run dry. The second major problem was of siltation in the bed of the Hooghly. In fact, the depth of the Hooghly also depends to a large extent on the tides. The maximum draft this year was measured at 8 meters in Calcutta and 8.5 meters in Haldia. Although old records are not available, it is certain that when the Calcutta Port Trust was constituted in 1870, the Hooghly had more water and was deeper. But the biggest problem is maintaining the width and the depth of the channels in the river through which the ships must pass. And to ferry the ships through the winding channels is a Herculean task. Obviously, piloting the ship from the Bay of Bengal to Calcutta or Haldia needs alert eyes and practiced hands. For this, the Trust has 35 pilots who take over the ship from Sandhead itself. From here to Calcutta, a distance of 235 kilometers, is covered under their expert guidance. They know, from reports of the various survey departments, how deep the Hooghly is today. Also, the shore is dotted with buoys to guide the pilots. These are lit day and night to guide the ships in the right route. At some points near Sandhead, the channels are as wide as 6,000 feet. While near Calcutta, they shrink to a mere 350 feet, For maintaining these channels, the first thing is to keep the river under constant survey. And this is what Anusandhani, the research vessel of the Calcutta Port Trust, does. Armed with the latest equipment, this survey vessel floats on the Hooghly, measuring its flow, depth, and all other necessary parameters.
We chart the entire river. We find out where the best depth lies in the entire river. Show the ships which best way they can come to Calcutta. And besides on hydrography, we have to collect various hydrological observations, which means what is the velocity of tide, what is the current in that place, how the set of tide is there, whether the sand movement and how it is going on. Depending all these informations, the research departments, they see how best the river can be changed and the river depth can be increased. Sometime it will require dredging, sometime it will require construction of a wall or a spar or similar sort of thing.
And now begins the job of the dredger. Vessels which dig up the riverbed and remove the silt. At all times, the Calcutta Port Trust has a number of dredgers, some of which are on hire from the Dredging Corporation of India. The cleaning of the riverbed is a year-long process. The lower reaches and the mouth of the river have collected a lot of silt. But constant dredging is not enough and not really feasible. So a number of river regulatory measures have been taken to maintain the depth of the river. For example, walls have been built to protect the banks, and trees have been planted to prevent erosion. Similarly, to divert the water towards navigable routes, guide walls have been constructed. One such wall near Haldia is about 2.8 kilometers long. This was completed in 1992. Massive afforestation schemes have been undertaken at Haldia and elsewhere. In Haldia alone, altogether 220,000 trees of different species have so far been planted. At Noyachor Island off Haldia, massive mangrove afforestation schemes have been undertaken. Nurseries have been set up at Noyachor Island for raising seedlings. Besides, the impact of dredging on underwater environment is being regularly studied. That was on the 28th of February, 1977. A ship called Vishva Vijay became the first cargo vessel to reach the Haldia port. It was a red-letter day in the history of the Calcutta Port Trust. Bigger vessels can come to this new port 102 kilometers away from Calcutta, for it has deeper waters. Also, the bends from here to the Bay of Bengal are not as sharp. In fact, oil-carrying vessels had started coming to Haldia from 1968 itself, when the first oil jetty, Satish Samant, was commissioned. Till the Assam-Baroni pipeline was made, the Baroni oil refinery was getting all its supplies from here. Besides, this oil jetty of Haldia is linked with the industrial centers of Asansol, Durgapur, and Calcutta through pipelines. Apart from this, Haldia is the country's first port where modern facilities to ferry goods in containers have been made available. Automatic machines have been installed here for loading coal and other goods. The other ports of the Calcutta Port Trust, Kedarpur and Netaji Subhash docks, also have container facilities now. Both docks adjoin Calcutta city. Ever since British rule, Calcutta has been an important center of maritime trade. In 1945-46, about 1.1 crore tons of goods were imported and exported from here.
In the year of India's independence, that means during 1946-47, Calcutta Port's maritime trade stood at 65 lakh tons. With economic activities picking up, Calcutta Port's trade increased to 81 lakh tons in 1953-54, which was 40% of the country's total export-import trade. In 1957-58, it crossed the 1 crore ton mark. Despite many odds and reversals, Calcutta Port handled 2.31 crore tons of maritime cargo last year. That means during 96-97.
But just the increase or decrease of maritime trade is not a measure of a port's efficacy, for that may depend on many political and economic factors. What must be considered is what facilities does the port offer, and how does it fulfill the needs of the importers and exporters?
At Calcutta Dock System in Garden Reach area, we are mainly catering to the needs of break bulk cargo as also containers. Our container traffic at Calcutta Dock System has picked up very nicely, and we hope to progress further. At Bajbaj down south, we have mainly facilities for liquid bulk. At Haldia, there is a mixture of liquid as well as dry bulk. Haldia is basically a mechanized port, and there we have installed ultra-modern machineries to unload and load cargo in bulk. Haldia has become one of the finest bulk port in the country because of its good performance all along and utilization of the bulk machineries that has been installed there since its inception.
Calcutta Port Trust is a self-sufficient autonomous organization. In the year 1995-96, the port had a revenue surplus of rupees 84.65 crores as against rupees 76 crores in the year 1993-94 and rupees 45 crores in 1992-93.
It has a large estate comprising land, buildings and structures. The infrastructural facilities are being improved through various measures, like the Vessel Traffic Management System, VTMS, which will initially help to guide the ships from Sandhead to Haldia. The Differential Global Positioning System, DGPS, a system based on satellite signals received from the orbiting satellites, is being installed. The Computer Center of the Calcutta Port Trust has been making relentless efforts to minimize various labor-intensive activities like container handling, ship movement, personnel information, etc. And now, when new economic policies have given a fillip to trade, maritime trade also naturally faces new challenges. Obviously, the Calcutta Port Trust will also have to brace itself to meet these challenges.
The port management is aware of the opportunities and the possibilities that are being ushered in by Government of India by their new policy of liberalization and globalization. In the matter of privatization, we have been in the forefront and we have led the path before others by privatizing 2 berths at Haldia before anybody could do that. We are also taking advantage of the new concept of private investment in the port. We understand that the port has to modernize, and in the matter of modernization there is need for money, investment, and if we can find suitable like-minded partners who can spend money and invest in the port, they are welcome.
Calcutta Port Trust would not have progressed so much had it not been for the unflinching and dedicated support of thousands of its laborers and employees. The workers are provided all basic amenities, from medical aid to housing. In return, the employees have put their hearts and souls into working for this unique institution. The result? Progress, and still more progress. Doubtless that in the coming years, the Calcutta Port Trust will scale new heights of excellence.